All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're learning Leilu Nishmat Rabbi Avram ben Rabbi Chaim Yehuda and Yecheskel ben Rabbi Avram. So, we're going to speak a little bit about the topic of the season, which is not only a topic of this season, it's a topic really of every season, and that is you have to love everybody, you have to love your fellow Jews, and of course, obviously this goes for family members, this goes for interpersonal relationships, and this goes for, as well, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for God. So, when you look at specifically the reason why it's at every single time of the year is because the reason why we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have the third temple, is because of sinas chinam. We don't, with this baseless hatred. Reverse that is a love and respect for every single Jew can reverse that. But specifically during this time period is when the 24,000 students, or rather the 12,000 peers of students of Rabbi Akiva died during this time period, and that's why we are in a period of mourning. During this time period, whether you hold according to the Rizal, which is from Pesach till Shavuos, or just until Omer. But in any case, it is a time period of mourning. And what was the reason that the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died? Because the Gemara in Yevamos, page 62b, tells us they didn't treat each other with respect. Now, we spoke about this topic before. We're going to bring it about in a completely different manner. Well, not a completely different, but a very different angle. And the way that this lecture actually came out, this shir came out, is this past week my father told me a shir from an Israeli rabbi by the name of Rabbi Gedalia Hoffenhag, and he the shir itself blew my mind. So I took most of it from this shir, moved things around, added a bunch of things, but this is where it's based off. Give credit where credit is due. And the first question is as follows: Rabbi Akiva has a saying. There's some rabbis that this is their motto. This is their this is what they focus on the most. So again, not to say this is what Rabbi Akiva only focused on the most, but Rabbi Akiva on the pasuk in Vayikra, chapter 19, verse 18. The pasuk, a very famous verse in the Torah, tells us, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." You have to love your friend like yourself. Pasuk finishes off, "Ani Hashem, I am God." Rashi in that pasuk says that Omer Rabbi Akiva, Zekla Gadol b'Torah. This is a great principle in the Torah. So, meaning that this rabbi, of the 24,000 students that died because they didn't respect one another, his saying, his motto, his saying that this is a great principles of Torah is that you have to love your neighbor like yourself. Now the question is, wait a minute, what happened? These students didn't know that? Like a second grader knows this. Maybe you could say because it turns into a song or whatever it is. But everybody knows this, right? You have to love your friend like yourself. The students didn't know about that. How is it possible that they failed in this aspect that they didn't treat each other with respect? So we have to delve a little bit into what this means, great principle, meaning that this is something Rabbi Akiva says. Not everybody said that this is a great principle in the Torah. Some people, there's a, and we'll see that Ben Azzai says there's something else. This is based off a Bereshis Rabbah, the Midrash, that says that Rabbi Akiva says, meaning that there's a great principle in the Torah, and that is that you have to love your friend like yourself. But Ben Azzai says no. Ben Azzai says, you know what is a great principle in the Torah? Zeh Sefer Toldos Adam. This is a literal translation. This is the book of Adam's generations. Which again, what does that even mean? How is that a great principle in the Torah? So I want to share with you a Rivash. The Rivash explains as follows. What are they really arguing over here? The great principle of the Torah is they have to love your friend like yourself. Now the great principles, no, it's talking about the generations, the descendants. So what's the argument over here, and how do you understand it? So the question really here is, who does a person love more? What is the greatest love that a person have? Right? So if you think about the loves that a person have, so there's different levels in it, right? A person could love their job, they could hate their job, they could love their house, they could love their car, they could love their possessions, they could love their projects that they're working on, they could love their organizations that they build. People have different levels of love. People love their animals to an extremely high extent. And then there's a love of of other human beings. So what's the highest level of love? Like, what's the love that is on the top of the top? So you can balance it off, and most people will put it in these two categories. Number one, love yourself. What's greater than a love yourself? Number two, parents will generally say this, the greatest love that you could have is a love for your child. And this, says the Rivash, is what Rabbi Akiva and Ben Azzai are arguing about. Meaning that we know that there's a pasuk, there's a verse in the Torah, you have to love your friend like yourself. But the question is, what is the greatest love? Is it that your own love for yourself, is that the greatest? Or rather, the greatest love is the love for your descendants, for Sefer Toldos Adam, the love for the descendants. So now, we see over here, the bottom line is that a person has to love someone else at the maximum level, the highest level. Whether it's going to be, you have to love the other person the way that you love yourself, or you have to love the other person like you love your children. But now we have to ask a question, really? Is that so? Like, that's a nice saying. You could say that, but really, do you really have to love someone else as much as you love yourself? Very impractical if you start to think about it. And not only that, to make this question even greater, Rabbi Akiva himself, who says that loving your friend is a great principle in the Torah, you have to love your friend like yourself, he himself contradicts it to a certain extent in another, saying that he has. And that is a Gemara on Bava Metzia, page 62a, that gives a very interesting case. You have two people walking in the desert. One person has a cup of water, the other person has no water. They are not going to get to water situation for at least another day. There's enough water for one person to survive for 24 hours. After that, if they both drink it, they both very likely die. If one of them drink it, then one of them has a chance to survive. So the question is, who gets to drink it? Do you split it? Do you give it to the other person? Do you take it for yourself if this is referring to it's your water? So the Gemara gives the argument, it's machlokes. Ben Petura says, no, you don't give it to the other person. You don't take it for yourself. Rather, you both drink it. And if you both die, but better than not to see another Jew die. Ask the Netziv, what's the logic over here? Like, what's the benefit of both people dying? And the reasoning is that you don't know what's going to be in the next 24 hours, right? Let's say you have enough water that will last you 24 hours, but you don't know what's going to be in the next 24 hours. Maybe you'll find something. Maybe someone will come and rescue you. So better, both of you drink it. Extends your time, your chance of survival to, for 24 or whatever it is, let's say it's 12 hours, and then hopefully something will turn out. That's what the Netziv explains Ben Petura. However, Rabbi Akiva says something else. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you drink it yourself. You don't have to split it with your friend. You don't have to split it with your brother. You drink it yourself. Why? And he brings a proof from a pasuk, a verse in Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 25, verse 36. And the pasuk says, "V'chai achicha imach." Your brother has to live together with you, meaning that live together with you. You don't have to sacrifice your own life for somebody else. Meaning you could be selfish over here. Who says this? Rabbi Akiva. Meaning that Rabbi Akiva, if we break this down, Rabbi Akiva says the greatest principle, one of the great principles of the Torah is you have to love your friend like yourself. But in another Gemara, it says that no, the great, if it breaks down, if it's you or your friend, you come first. Wait a minute. Do you have to love your friend like yourself, or do you come first? Which one is it? And to make the matters even stronger, like who do we paskin like? Who do we finalize like in this Gemara? We paskin like Rabbi Akiva. That real in the actual case, if it comes down to it, if two people are in the desert and there's only enough water for one person, the person that owns that is able to take it for themselves. So we see over here that it's not the case that you love the other person like yourself, because if you would love the other person like yourself, just give the water to the other person. So this is question number one from one Gemara. We bring another Gemara to also to add to this question. So there's a Gemara in Adar on page 80b. There is a spring in one town, a water resource in one town, and this is enough for drinking, for everything they need from one town. There's a nearby town that doesn't have any water. So now the question is, who gets the water? Do the residents of the town that has the well, let's call it, get the water? Or It's actually a spring. Do the town residents are able to utilize that, or do they have to give it to their friends, to their neighbors in the other town, and they should get it? And the Gemara says the answer is that no, the residents of the town, they get to utilize the water. Okay, so that's when you're dealing with your own personal life and death situation. What about if there's enough water for everybody in both towns to survive? But now the question is regarding their animals. Whose animals get first to drink? Or if there's only enough for one city's animals, who gets it? Meaning that you could say that your life comes more important because it's life and death. But for everything else, monetary, everything else, that goes, you have to love your friend more than you, and that goes to the other person. So ask the Gemara, what about the animals? If there's enough water for animals of one city, who gets to get it? The city that owns the well or the city that doesn't? And the Gemara says the city that owns the well, they take precedence. And then it brings another situation where if, let's say, there's enough only for laundry for one city, who gets it? Again, the city of the residents of the whoever owns the well, that's the one who gets to keep the water. So we see over here that another case where, what does it mean you have to love your friend like yourself? It seems like we have to love ourselves more and care for ourselves more than other people. And in fact, listen to this final case where, let's say, there is enough water for your city, that this is where the well is, for the people, for the animals, and for doing laundry. But there's no water for the other city. So the question is, can you utilize the remaining water for laundry, just cleaning clothes, in the city that owns the well, or do you give that remaining water to the other people so that they're able to survive? Now you think, okay, it's an obvious question, life and death, but it's not so simple. There's a machlokus in the Gemara. There's an argument in the Gemara. The Tanna Kama says that it goes to the other person. It goes to the other, meaning you have to save a person's life and you have to give it to the other person. But Rabbi Yossi says, no, the laundry takes precedence of this town over because you have to care for yourself first. So again, it's an argument. We're not going to go into what way finalize and who do we pass like. But the point is that we see over here, case after case, where what does it mean that you have to love your friend like yourself? More than we see here over here, a few cases that you have to love yourself more than your friend over here. So how do we begin to understand this very famous and important principle in Torah? And that is that you have to love your friend like yourself. And this is very, very important for everybody to understand this. There's not many things that the Amoraim, the Tanaim speak about. This is a klal gadol b'Torah. This is a very important principle in the Torah. So when the Torah says that this is an important principle, we have to figure it out. Like, what's going on over here? How do we understand it? How do we extrapolate that information? How do we go and bring it into actualization into our day-to-day life? So the Ramban explains, what does it mean that you have to love your friend like yourself? And that is that you have to love your friend in every way, the way that you love your own soul. For example, don't give to other people less than you would give yourself. So let's give a few examples to break this down. We know that there is an obligation, you have to return lost objects. If someone finds a lost object, you have to return it. What was one of the reasoning behind this? Just like if you would lose something, you would want somebody to return it to you, so too you have to go and return it to somebody else. Lashon Hara is another example. You don't want other people to speak negatively about you, so you don't speak negatively about other people. You have to give rebuke, tochacha. If to criticize somebody, when the circumstances allow it, how do you want to be criticized? You don't want to be screamed at and pointed at and belittled. You want to give it with dignity. You want to be able to get this criticism with dignity, with respect, in a way that's not going to be so harmful and so hurtful. So too you, if you need to give criticism, whether it's for whatever it is, family or whatever, then you also have to give it in a respectful way, just the way that you would want to receive it. Meaning that, what does it mean that you have to treat others the way that you want to be treated? But again, this doesn't come on your survival or the cost of your well-being, but you have to go and have to have that same, the way that you want to be treated. This is the way that you should treat other people. Right, so the Ketava of Kabbalah brings down, I'll bring down another example on it, is that, let's say somebody's making a simcha. You're making a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a var, it doesn't matter, you're making something. Now imagine there is, another person that's going and very busy at work and has a very, very difficult day, and all of a sudden they finally come home and they realize it's very, very late, and they realize that you're making this wedding. And this person starts thinking, do I really need to go to this wedding? It's so late. I have to travel so far. By the time I get back, I'm going to be exhausted. And, you know how the mind starts working and the mind starts giving great, great, great excuses. So what happens if we would reverse the scenario? Meaning, if let's say the other person is making a wedding, of course the other person wants everybody to come. That's why they send out invitations. And some people, they go like an IRS audit. Who came, how much money they give, and how long they stayed for, and who they talk to, and they go and they review the videotapes, and they go, right? People care about it. People spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort making a simcha. They want people to come. They want people to partake in their simcha, in the meritorious occasion of whatever it is. So just like you would want other people to come to your simcha, you have to also go to other people's simcha. You have to go to other people. People think about it. Okay, I'm going to travel an hour there, spend 2 minutes saying Mazel Tov, and then leave 3 hours for like a little Mazel Tov, and people start weighing, is it worth it? And be like, first of all, you don't know what the worth of the other person is, and if you flip the books, you would want people to show up to you. You don't want the whole neighborhood to be like, oh, it's so far, I don't want to go, I don't need to go, all the excuses. So meaning, explains the Ketava Kabbalah, explains the Ramban, that the way ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha is the way that you want to be treated, just like you want to be treated a certain way, you should treat others, a certain way. Now, this sounds great. This is a very doable type of thing. The implications and the practical applications of this, you can think, okay, this is doable. And this is where Rabbi Akiva says, however, you always have to be thinking of someone. You always have to be thinking about the other person in order to really do this correctly. Meaning the pasuk in Vayikra that tells us, this is a great, great principle of the Torah. As simple as it sounds, you have to concentrate on it, and you have to focus on it, and you have to be alert to it. I'd like to share with you a beautiful story. At the end of World War II, the refugees were going in different places, and there was a large group of Jews that ended up in Romania. And this was during the month of Nisan, where people start getting ready for the holiday of Passover, for Pesach. And the people that ended up in this town was none other than the Admor of Skulen, the Rabbi Eliezer Zusha, Portugal. He was the rabbi of Skulen, and he risked his life that he would be able to go and bake matzos for not only for himself but for everybody who was able to. He baked as many as could. He's trying to scrape flour or whatever he could, baked matzos, and he decided that he's going to give it out to anybody who asks. And the method he was going to give it out was going to give it out for free. If a person comes for his family, they get 1 matzah. If there's a rabbi or a community leader, they get 3 matzahs. Okay. So people heard about it, people came knocking, and he gave whatever it is that he had. One day he gets a knock on the door, and he opens up, sees a distinguished looking young man. He says, "And who are you?" He says, "My name is Moshe Hager. I'm the son of the Admor of the Sarat Vishnitz. I'm the son of the rabbi of the Sarat Vishnitz." So he says, "Oh, such a holy rabbi, such a great rabbi." He says, "For you?" He takes out 3 matzahs, and he says, "Your father is a rabbi of a community, and you get 3 matzahs for that." He says, "Thank you very much." And then he finishes off, the rabbi, "Please give regards to your father. Have a chag kosher v'sameach." So Rabbi Moshe Hager says, "Thank you very much," but he remains standing there. And the Skulen Rebbe says, "Can I help you?" He says, "What are you still doing here?" He says, I gave you the matzahs." And he said, "Yeah, I appreciate the matzahs that you gave me, but my father said that I can't leave unless I get 6 matzahs from you." And the rabbi is like, 6 matzahs? He says, "I can't give you 6 matzahs." He says, "Every matzah that I give you, I can't give to somebody else." He says, even 3, everybody gets 1. I gave you 3. I can't, absolutely, there's no way that I could give you, 6 matzahs. So Moshe Haker, looks at him and says, I understand, but you have to understand that I cannot leave here. My father told me that I have to stay here until I get 6 matzahs. So I am going to just stand over here. So the rabbi says, fine, stand, and he goes around doing the thing. And meanwhile, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours go by. This young rabbi is standing over there. The Skulen rabbi is sitting around walking there. He says, he goes over to him and he says, what are you doing? He says, go home already. I'm not giving you another 6 matzahs. And he says, I can't go home. My father said I can't leave until I get 6 matzahs. But the rabbi says, but I explained to you that I can't give you. If I give you, I'm not going to be able to give other people. And Rabbi Moshe Haker says, yes, you explained. I explained my reasoning. We all explained. But at the end of the day, I'm staying here until I get 6 matzahs. So the rabbi, figures that he's eventually, but this guy did not leave. He just ended up standing there. He says, you know what? This is getting few days before Pesach. He says, I can't deal with this right now. He says, you want the 6 matzahs? He goes, takes out another 3 matzahs, gives them, says 6 matzahs, go have a happy Passover, Shalom Aleichem Shalom, goodbye. And he takes him, he thanks him, and he goes away, goes home. Few days go by. It comes to the day of Pesach, the day of Passover, Erev Pesach. It comes like a few hours before the holiday starts, and there's a knock on the door of the Skulen Rebbe's door. Who is there? None other than Rabbi Moshe Haker. And he says, what's going on? The Skulen Rebbe says, what are you doing here? And he says, do you have any more matzahs? And the Skulen Rebbe is like, are you more matzahs? He says, I didn't give you 1. I didn't give you 2. I didn't give you 3. I didn't give you 4. I gave you 6 matzahs. You want more matzahs? And the Rabbi Moshe Haker says, listen, it's not for me. It's my father came and asked me to come and ask you if you have more matzahs. And he says, he says, of course, I don't have any, I don't have any more matzahs. So Rabbi Moshe Haker says, do you mind if I come and check and make sure you don't have any more matzahs? The Skulen Rebbe starts laughing. So what do you mean if you want to check my b'dikas chametz, b'dikas matzah? You want to come and check to make sure that I don't have any more matzahs? And Rabbi Moshe Haker says, Kvod the Rav, don't get upset at me. I says, I'm just coming here as a directive from my father. So the Skulen Rebbe says, really, I don't have any more matzahs, but I want to explain to you. He says, this morning, I saved for myself 3 matzahs. I put it on the side. This morning, I get a knock on the door. And there is a young man standing over there, and he says, I heard that the Rebbe is giving out matzahs. I know it's last minute. I understand if the Rebbe doesn't have anything. He says, but, I only heard about it right now. I figured I'll come. I'll check if I'm able to get, I'll get. And, the Rebbe is thinking, and he says, I have 3 matzahs. This guy's got nothing. He says, I'm not going to give him a matzah. He says, you know what? I have a matzah. He goes out, takes from his 3, gives him 1, and he says, have a Chag Kosher v'Sameach, have a happy Passover. And they close the door. It says goodbye. Thank you very much and goodbye. 10 minutes go by. There's another knock on the door. I know it's so late, my dear rabbi says, but I heard that you have some matzahs. Maybe you have something extra. I understand if you don't because it's last minute, but maybe you have something. So the Skulen rabbi is thinking, he says, listen, he says, I have 2. This young man doesn't even have 1. He says, how could I turn this person away? So I gave him, the 1 matzah, and I was left with 1 matzah. Half hour goes by. I get another knock on the door. There's a very, very troubled young man by the door. And he's sitting there with tears in his eyes. And he says, Rabbi, he says, I lost everybody in the Holocaust. I am the only sole survivor of the family. I don't even know why God kept me alive. To be honest, better off if he would have finished me off over there. He says, I have no idea over here. And I'm looking around for maybe God showing me a smile somewhere, like some sort of sign. And I heard that you have a matzah, that you have matzahs over here. I know this is a few hours before Pesach. I understand if you don't have anything, but I figured let me come. And the Skulen Rebbe says, I'm looking at this young man, this troubled young man. It's like he's sitting over there. He's so broken. And I'm starting to think, if I give him my matzah, I'm not going to have anything left. But then I started thinking, I said, what does God want from me? He says, here, I could do 2 mitzvahs. I could give him a matzah, and I will be, I'll do the positive commandment of chesed, gemilas chasadim, and not only that, he'll also be able to be yotze the mitzvah matzah. So I'll get two mitzvahs over there. Versus if I just eat it, I just get 1 mitzvah. So I decided that I'm going to take my last remaining matzah. I gave it to this person with all smiles. I said, "Chag kasher v'sameach." So now you come to me and you ask me if I have any more matzahs. The answer is no. I have 0 matzahs left. So Rav Moshe Hager says, "Oh, okay." So he goes and he reaches into his bag, takes out 3 matzahs, and he says, "Here, my father wanted me to give this to you." And the Skulen Rebbe is looking at him and says, "What?" He says, "When my father came and told me to go and pick up matzahs, my father knew who the Rebbe was, and he knew that the rabbi is never going to keep his matzahs to himself. He's just going to give out whatever he has to everybody else. And he's going to be left without any matzahs. That's why my father came, and my father told me that when you come, you don't move until you get 6 matzahs. 3 for us, and 3 for the Skulen Rebbe himself. Because I know that he is going to give every last thing that he has to help another Jew." You know what? V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha? You know what it means to love somebody else? Is that you're always thinking about the other person. You're not thinking about, you'll be like, what can I do for the other person? You know, during the time of the Holocaust, this is when people focused only on themselves. This was the most difficult time. It was so difficult. It's hard to think about other people when things are going good. But when things are going bad, to think about other people. And this, how some people, this is the way that they work. You know, I speak to people all the time, and you know, some people, let's say, don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, don't believe that. One of the things, I have too much going on. I have too much of my personal issues. I have too much of health and parnasa and whatever. The list goes on and on. I can't think about spirituality. I can't think about God. I can't think about the Torah. I can't think about another person. But here we see that even in the most difficult time, even the power of being able to stop and think about the other person. The Lubavitch Rebbe says that when a person gives charity, despite their financial struggles, meaning when it's hard for them, that opens up the gate for the greatest divine blessings. And the Chavat Avavos brings this down also, that when someone gives tzedakah, when it's out of poverty, when it's difficult for them, this brings great merit and great blessing. And in fact, there was a poor chassid that once came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he says, "Rebbe, I have nothing. I got nada, nothing to, no bread for Shabbos even." So the Rebbe says, "Empty your pockets." He empties his pockets. He had a few crumbs, and he had 1 coin. And the Rebbe says, "Take that coin and give it to somebody else. Give it to charity." So says the rabbi said that. It's fine. Takes a coin, gives it to the first person that's collecting charity. That same day that he gave that charity, he found some sort of lucrative work, and by the time Shabbos came, he had his full table set, set to the max. You want to know the greatest secret? When you think you can't afford, that's when you can't afford not to. When you think you can't think about somebody else because it's too much, that's when you can't afford not to think about somebody else. When you think you can't afford to give charity, that's when you cannot afford not to give charity. The way that the blessings work is that when it's difficult for you, when it's hard for you, there's a greater reward that's coming to it. There's a greater level for it. And this during the time when it's difficult, and people say I'm rushing, and myself, included. You're rushing over here, you're rushing over there, and then you got a phone call here, and you can't think for a second, and you get bombarded, and you can't. It's hard to assess the situation. It's hard to think about the other person when you're drowning with so many things. Again, it could be great things, it could be important things, it could be successful things. But if a person, it's hard to think about it. And v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love somebody else like yourself, you have to step back for a second. And you have to think about, how would I want to get treated? How would I want to get, I'll give you, an example. This week, I got a hold of a rabbi I was trying to get a hold of took me a long time. Not going to mention, the name. It took me a long, long time. And I know that this rabbi is busy, and by all means. But when I finally got the rabbi, when we finally were speaking over the phone, the respect that he just gave, again, wasn't deserving, but the time, as busy as as you are or I am or whatever it is, this rabbi's times 10. But then the world stops when you're speaking to. There's so much that you can learn from the holy rabbis, from the great people of the generation. And you have to pick up on these little nuances, and these are lessons. Be like, you know what, if someone calls me, I have to treat, with the same respect that this person, treated me. And that's the way that we need to think. Like, you want something, you have to be treated the same way. You have to go and treat it. This is not the simple thing. And even though you could say, okay, it's not as difficult as giving up your life for somebody else, but it's something that takes, you have to think about it. You have to consider it. You have to work on yourself to be able to treat others the way that you want to treat it. Now let's take this to the next level. The Chassam Sofer says that, what does it mean, Zeklal Gadol B'Torah? This is a great principle in the Torah. Could have just said, this is a great principle. They have to love your friend like yourself. Why did it have to add in the Torah? So it explains the Chassam Sofer. Let's say you're a very learned person, and somebody comes over to you and says, can you learn with me? And you know that if you sit and learn with this person, it's going to come at the expense of your own learning. Meaning that you're able to learn so much in an hour. You can learn a full Matzah in an hour, or whatever it is, a full book in an hour. And if you learn somebody else, you're going to learn like a quarter of a page. Like 50, 10% of a page. So what's the right thing to do? Do you go and learn by yourself at a higher level, or do you learn with this person at a much, much lower level? Says the Chassam Sofer that when it comes to things in general, you come first. But when it comes to things in regarding Torah, that's where somebody else comes first. V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha zeklal gadol b'Torah. B'Torah meaning that in the Torah aspect, your friend comes before you. Your friend, your neighbor, your student, whatever it is, that has to come before you. Now, why? Why? Let's delve into this because it's so beautiful. Why specifically in the Torah is this referred to that your friend comes before you? So there's a famous Gemara in Shabbos. Famous Gemara that in Shabbos, page 31a, that says that there was a non-Jew, a Gentile, that came over to Beis Shammai, and he says, I want you to convert me on 1 foot. Beis Shammai looks at 1 foot. He takes out this like builder measuring cubit, like stick, and he chases him out, with meaning that there's no way. So this Gentile runs out. He goes over to Beis Shammai, and he says, I want you to convert me on 1 foot. And Hillel says, okay, no problem. He converted him. He says, you want to know what's the one, what's 1 foot? Whatever the translation is, this is what Hillel told him. He says, I'm going to convert you 1 foot. What the Torah stands on, this is the sentence. What is hateful to you, do not do to your friend. The rest is commentary. Go learn. Ask the Maharsha, what's going on with this story? You have a Gentile, a non-Jew, that comes into 2 rabbis. I want you to convert me on 1 foot. One chases them out. Another one says, okay, yeah, I could convert you. Whatever, and the 1 foot, like what the foundation, whatever is hateful unto you, do not do unto others. So, explains the Maharsha that this Gentile was asking, teach me everything. And I want one foundation. I want the one foundation that everything stands on. So Beis Shammai chased him out with a builder's, like a measuring stick. What was it specifically, a builder's measuring stick? He was explaining to him, he says, do you think that when you build a building that's 40 stories high, there's 1 point of foundation? There's no. There's the east side, there's the west side, there's the south side, there's the north side. The foundation lies deep underground. There's different points for the structure. It's not just, there's no 1 point. So Beis Shammai said, there's no way. I can't teach you everything with 1 point. Beis Hillel says, yes, there is a 1 point. And that 1 point is, what is hateful unto you, don't do unto others. Now the question is, how is that the foundation of the entire Torah? How do we begin to understand it? So we have to go a little bit Kabbalistic. We know that there are 613 commandments, 248 positive commandments, and 365 negative commandments. The 248 positive commandments, this corresponds to the Avarim, the limbs, the 248 limbs of a person. And the 365 corresponds to the sinews, the gidim of a person, also corresponds to the days of the solar year. But when you take the 365 plus the 248, that's where you get to 613. Now, just like you have to feed your body, you feed your body with nutrients, and you need to feed your body also with oxygen. The way that the body works is that it takes the oxygen. It takes the nutrients, it goes into the blood, and it goes to each and every single part of your body. Your body, the blood brings the nutrients, brings the oxygen, takes the carbon dioxide, basically revitalizes your entire body. You're feeding your body with certain things in order to survive. That is the physical body. The spiritual body, the spiritual soul, also needs to be fed. How does it get fed? And that is through the 613 commandments. That's how you feed your soul. So you feed your body through the oxygen and through food. And you feed your soul through the 613 commandments. Now, we know that it's impossible for one person to complete and to fulfill all 613 commandments. Because if you're a man, you're not a woman. If you're Kohen, you're not a Yisrael or a Levi. If you are a farmer, then, you're able to do certain things. But if you're not a farmer, you can't do it. If you're a king, you can't. There's certain laws. You live in Israel, you don't live in Israel. There are certain laws depending on what your circumstances are. It is physically impossible to complete all 613 commandments because it varies off to a bunch of different situations. And you're never going to be in all those situations. So how are you going to go and fulfill the 613 commandments? So the Arizal brings down the way that you get it done is you come back in reincarnation. You start off in one area and then you complete that, and then you go to another area, Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. You go and you complete all the 613 commandments. You fill up you supply your soul with the nutrients it needs, and then it's able to go to the Olam HaEmes, to the world, to the world to come, waiting for Mashiach, and it's able to pass on to the next level. And this explains, listen to this beautiful explanation of it. There's a pasuk in Shmos, chapter 3, verse 15. Zeh shmi la'olam v'zeh zichri l'dar v'dar. Now let's take a little bit of the numerical value of the gematrias. Shmi, shin mem yud, is 350. Add 2 letters of God's name, vav and hey, which is 15, equals 365. That is the negative commandments, 365. Shmi is referred to the 365 negative commandments. Zichri, the Zayin Chaf Reish Yud, is 237. Add the other 2 letters of God's name, Vav and Hey, right? Because it's Yud K and Vav Hey, God's name of mercy. Vav and Hey, that's 11, plus a 237, that is 248. So again, that's the positive commandment. So you have Shmi, which is 350, plus the 15, that is 365, is referring to the negative commandments. Then you have Zichri, which is 237, plus the 11 of the Vav and the Hey, equals 248, and that is the positive commandments. Shmi la'olam. Shmi is referring to the 365 negative commandments that you could do la'olam. Everything. Well, how do you fulfill the negative commandments? Just don't violate the negative commandments. You could do that in every reincarnation. Every reincarnation, you could go and make sure that you don't violate the 365 negative commandments of the Torah. But v'zeh zichri, the 248 positive commandments, that is l'dar v'dar. You have to come back generation after generation to be able to fulfill it. So again, zeh shmi la'olam, for when you're dealing with the 365 negative commandments, the shmi la'olam, you can do it in every reincarnation. But v'zeh zichri, to do the remembrance, to do the 248 positive commandments, l'dar v'dar, that you have to come back every generation to be, and not every generation, you have to come back in reincarnation to be able to fulfill it. So we see over here that in order to supply your soul with the nourishment, with the food that it needs, you have to come back multiple times. And the Pele Yoetz, however, says that Gilgal, is not something that everybody's like, okay, I'll try again next time. Nobody wants to come down to this world again. It's very, very difficult, and in fact, it's more painful than death to come back again into this world. The Chafetz Chaim doubles down on this and says, besides the fact that it's difficult and it's painful and it's hard for the body, for the soul to come down again, who knows if you're going to be able to go and succeed? Maybe you'll fill in with more sin upon more sin. Not everybody goes and keeps on fixing themselves. Sometimes they make themselves worse and worse. So really, it's better not to need to come down to this world again, and rather finish everything in one go. And this is what the non-Jew, the Gentile, was asking Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. He goes over and he says, I want you to convert me on regel achad. Regel achas means one time. I want to go and come down to this world only at one time. I don't want to have to keep on coming down into this world again to fulfill all the 630 commandments. So what do I need to do? What is the foundation that I could do that will get me all the 630 commandments in this one instant, this one time? Beis Shammai says it's impossible, and he goes and he chases him out with a builder's stick. You have to come down to multiple times. Beis Hillel says, no. There is a way to do that. What is hateful unto you, don't do unto others. What is its source? Its source is Rabbi Akiva. That v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Hashem. What is it that v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha? How does that work out? That if you have this one great principle that Rabbi Akiva says, you don't have to come down again to this world of reincarnation to fill it. And the answer is that if you love your fellow Jewish brothers and sisters like yourself, then you're united. You're one entity. And when somebody else does a mitzvah, and if somebody's a Kohen, you get part of that. And somebody else does a mitzvah, Levi, you get part of that. This person does this, and you are united, and you love the other person like yourself. You get part of those reward. You get part of those mitzvahs. So you want to know, and in fact, this is the Orach Chaim brings us down in Parshas Pekudei, that you love your brother like yourself. This is how you can keep all the commandments. This is why it's a klal gadol b'Torah, specifically in the Torah, because if you want to go and fulfill all 613 commandments, then ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. If you love your friend like yourself, if you are united, if you don't, there's no baseless hatred, if you're just fully united with all your brothers and sisters, entire Klal Yisrael, then guess what? You're one entity, and if you're one entity, you get the reward of one entity, and you can finish all 613 commandments in one go. And it explains the Aruch Laner, and this is what we see this in by Rus, in Rus chapter 1 verse 16. Naomi is telling Rus, go back. She wanted to convert. She wanted to go back, and she says, "No, I want to." And Naomi is trying to convince her, "No, go back to where your sister also went back. Arpa went back. You also go back." Because Naomi was saying, "What are you gonna do? You're gonna convert? It's so difficult. How are you gonna do it?" You know what Rus answered? Rus answered, What does that mean? Your nation is my nation. And your God is my God. She said those two words, Amech Ami. Your nation is my nation. You know what Naomi was telling her? How are you going to keep the 630 commandments? They're so difficult. There's so many of them. You're never going to be able to complete all of them. So you know how I'm going to complete it, said Rus? Because your nation is my nation. Because we're all united and we're all connected and we're all one. And if we're all one, then guess what? Then I am going to be able to complete all 613 commandments. And this, says Rav Moshe Wolfson, that we see sometimes it says Moshe Rabbeinu first, and sometimes it says Aaron HaKohen first. Why? To teach us that Moshe and Aaron are equal. Are they equal? We know Moshe Rabbeinu has the highest level of nevuah. One of the 13 principles of faith is, the Rambam says that the Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no one that had a higher level of nevuah. How can you say that Moshe Rabbeinu is equal to Aaron HaKohen? Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim for 40 days and he was able to receive the Torah. How can you compare it to Aaron? Aaron HaKohen's great, but how do you compare it to Aaron HaKohen? It explains Rav Moshe Wilson that who was Aaron HaKohen? Aaron HaKohen was an oyev shalom v'roidev shalom. He was a pursuer and lover of peace. The focus that Aaron HaKohen had is that he loved everybody so dearly that he always made peace between husband and wife, between partners. He was going around and making sure that everybody was getting along with everybody else. His core was a lover of peace. He wanted everybody to get along. He wanted everybody to be together in a unity in one big happy family. He had such a love for Klal Yisrael, and in fact, when Aaron HaKohen died, the Midrash says that 80,000 young men were called sons of Aaron because he treated everybody like family. Aaron HaKohen had oyev shalom v'roidev shalom. All he cared about is v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, to the highest level that he loved everybody. So Moshe Rabbeinu, he was able to get to such a high level. He was able, and of course Moshe Rabbeinu loved every single Jew as well. But Moshe Rabbeinu was able to get to such a high level. He learned Torah and he knew all the Torah and he got everything to the highest level. Aaron HaKohen was able to get to the same level, by loving everybody. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, explains Rav Moshe Wolfson. He loved everybody like themselves. The love was there. It was all connected. It was one unity. So when this person did a mitzvah, he got rewarded for that. When this person did a mitzvah, he also got rewarded for it. Everybody was connected in such a unity. So now, let's go back to the students of Rabbi Akiva. What's going on over here with the students of Rabbi Akiva? If the Rebbe said, if the Rebbe said that, oh, this is a great thing in the Torah to love your friend, like, how did they mess up? How did they go to the point that they didn't? So what does the pasuk say? Let's try to analyze it. The pasuk says, why does it say the word l'reacha? L'reacha translate friend, but there's another terminology for friend, and that's chaver, which is a more of a common expression for friendship, is a chaver, chaverim, kol Yisrael chaver, arevim, chaverim, the same share. Why did we use l'reacha? And the answer is, what's the difference between a chaver and a reacha? A chaver, the root of the word chaver is like chibur, which is to join. What is the joining of two people? What is the love and the friendship of two people? People generally, they like another person when there are similarities, right? Why does a boy and a girl goes out and they find out who are they going to go and who are they going to want to marry? They find similarities to it. Oh, this is someone that I can get along with. This is something, and again, that's the right way to do things. But the friendship, the love, is based off the similarities. Reacha is something else. Reacha is someone different from you. So the Torah is not telling you v'yahavta l'chavercha kamocha. It doesn't say that you have to love your friend who is similar to you like you. Rather, it's saying v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha. You know who you have to love like yourself? Someone who's different than you. Someone who's not like you. Someone who's not, I don't love this person because there's common interests. I know that's easy. That's simple. That's obvious and that's natural. The Torah is saying to love your friend that's not like you. That's what you have to love. The Rambam, Maimonides, in Hilchos Ishus, the 15th chapter, the 19th Mishnah speaks about the sages commanded that a person has to respect his wife more than his body, and love her like his body. Meaning that there's two measuring points. There is love and there's respect. You have to love your wife like yourself, but you have to respect her more. Love is a bond between people and between two people that they have something in common. Respect is the bond where they could tolerate the differences between them. They could accept the differences, between them. And respect is more often more important in a relationship than the love. So we see over here that what the Torah is referring to, when you have to love somebody else, when you have to respect somebody else, that's when it's referring to obviously someone who's similar to you, but really in aspect it's referring to someone who's different than you. And explains the Maharal. You know what the students of Rabbi Akiva, they were huge Torah scholars. And when they came with some sort of interpretation, they thought they were really correct. And they honored those and respected those who agreed with them. But those that didn't agree with them, not so much. And the Chidah says they looked down on people that were less learned. This is the aspect that some of Farshim explain of where they lacked. That when somebody was different from them, they didn't have that same respect, that same love, as if somebody was the same from them. And this is the lesson that we have to take away. That when you go in life and it's very easy to go and love and respect people that are similar to you. People that have the same liking to you. People that come to you and that you get along. The difficult part, the part that you need to work on is people are different than you. That's where you need to work on. It's not about who is in your community. And it's not about who is a part of your group that you have to go and you have to help out. Obviously, the way of tzedakah is first the community. But there are unfortunately, people that they block out anybody outside of the community. No, we have to open it up to everyone. If it's a Jew, if it's a brother, it's a sister, it doesn't matter what it is. You have to love every single person like yourself. You have to go and treat them with that respect. And even and especially when they're different than you. There was once, we'll finish off with a story. There was once two close friends that lived in two separate cities, and they were both very successful businessmen. One particular friend fell upon some hard times, and he started losing all his money. to the point that he is on the verge of losing his house, couldn't put bread on the table, and he's at loss of what to do. His wife goes over to him and says, listen, he says, you have a friend in a nearby town. Go to this town. He'll help you out. He's a very successful person. You would have done the same thing. Go and help him out. So he thinks about it. He says, with so much going on, I never thought about that. It's a good idea. He says, I'm going to head out. He didn't even have money to hire a wagon. He had to walk to this other city. And he starts out walking. It takes him a few days. He gets to the city in the evening of one day. He says, how am I going to go to my friend? I'm all tattered up and torn clothes and look so dirty from walking for so many days. Let me rest up tonight, fall asleep in some sort of park bench. Tomorrow I'll clean up and I'll go to visit my friend, explain my situation. Hopefully they'll be able to help me. So he goes, he finds some sort of corner, bench in the park, falls asleep. In the middle of the night, he wakes up with some sort of commotion. He gets up and he sees in the distance there are two people fighting. Looks like there was some sort of mugging going on. Give me the money. No, I'm not going to give you the money. And they're going back and forth until all of a sudden the mugger takes out a knife and kills the other person. Now this person sitting on the bench, he's shocked. This businessman, he's like, he's going to say something. He's going to get, who knows what's going to happen. So he went and he hid under, like in a nearby bush, not to say anything. And hopefully, this person will go away. This mugger looks around, afterwards, sees no one's there, grabs the money and runs away. Now, this poor person, once a businessman, sitting over there saying, what am I supposed to do? Should I run away and, go not, he says, I need to get help. This person is obviously dead, but it's the middle of the night. I can't do anything. So he says, you know what? I'll stick around here. Once daylight comes and I can see my way around, I'll run into town, get help, and come back and bring the police and let them do the investigation. He's waiting there till daybreak, couldn't fall asleep. All of a sudden, there was a policeman patrolling the area. The policeman goes and sees there's some sort of body over here, and he quickly starts running around. He sees that there's another guy sitting not too far away by the bench, and he says, aha! You are the guy that obviously, he goes and he runs over to him and he says, and he comes to him and says, no, it wasn't me. I was sitting over there. And the policeman wasn't listening. He says, one person sitting next over here, it was for sure that it was you. So he goes and he's thrown into jail, and they bring him in front of a judge. And he starts saying, it wasn't me. I'm telling you, I was just sitting over there. I was resting, and this guy came. And the judge said, listen, all the evidence is pointing that it was you. And the more that they researched, the more they saw that some strange guy, never been to this town before, all of a sudden comes in. There's a murder. And they sentence him to the punishment in that town that if you go and you murder somebody else, the punishment is you get hung in the gallows. And everybody, the whole town comes to see to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And his sentence was passed. A day goes by, and the whole entire town comes to see the hanging, and they bring him on this big podium. They put in the noose on his neck, and all of a sudden, his friend, the other businessman, looks and he says, "Wait a minute, I know the guy." And he looks closer, and he sees it's his close friend from the other town, and he starts screaming, "Wait! This guy's not the murderer! This guy's not the murderer!" And there's a commotion, so everybody stops. And this guy runs up to the podium. He says, "He didn't kill this person. I killed the person." And he said, "Okay, you killed the person, so then you got to get hung over here instead." And then the guy who was going to get hung, the poor businessman, looks at him. He says, he sees his friend trying to take the paper. He says, "No." He says, "Absolutely not. He didn't kill him. I killed him." And they're each going back, "No, this guy didn't do it. I did it. And this guy didn't do it." And the judge over there was going out of his mind. He says, "We've never had this situation before." So the king hears about this commotion, and the king calls both of them, to see him. And he says, "Listen, in our town, we don't kill people willy-nilly. We do everything that's righteous. Something is going on over here." He says, "But if you tell me honestly what's going on, I'm going to let you both live." So he separates them into two separate rooms, wants to hear the story is, as accurate. And, so one businessman goes and says, "Listen," he says, "this is my close friend. I know him for years. He would never murder, forget about a person, not a fly. He's the greatest of the person. I could guarantee you that he didn't murder. And if he is destined to death, I'd rather die rather than him." And the king says, "Is that so?" Goes over to the other person and says, "Tell me what's going on." And he says, "Listen, my friend over here, he says he didn't do anything. He says it was all me. He says, I'm not, there's no way." And he says, "What do you mean? How do you know?" The king says, "How do you know it's not your friend?" He says, "Oh, I know my friend. He is the greatest person possible. He is such a straight person. He would never hurt anybody." He says, "He is not going to die for anything. If someone's going to die, it's going to be me." And they're each one is defending the other person. So the king calls them both in. And he says, "I see that both of you, really didn't kill this person. I'm going to let you both go. But I have one request. This friendship, I've never seen in my life. I've never seen such a friendship in my life before. I've seen people that kiss up and people that do ministers and other people, but I've never seen such a friendship." He says, "My request is," says the king to these two businessmen, says, I want to join this friendship. I want to be a part." He says, "With people like this is who I want to be friends with." The pasuk says, "V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha." You have to love your friend like yourself. And how does the verse end? Ani Hashem. I am God. What does the God, I am God, have to do with it? Because if you get to the point of v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, if you get to the point that you love everybody, God says, I want to be a part of this. You want to have blessings in your life. You want to have success in your life. You want to have so much brachas in your life, and especially during this time, then this is what we need to work on. We need to work on v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love every single person like yourself. Not the people that are similar to you. Not the people that you like. Not the people that you get along, but every single Jew, whether it's someone that's like you, someone that's not like you, someone that's in your community, someone that's outside of your community, someone that's a Sephardi or an Ashkenazi. It doesn't matter. If you're a Jew, I love you unconditionally. V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha. If we're able to tap into this, besides the fact that this is such an apropos time, we know if we're able to tap into this, we're able to get rid of the sinas chinam that's causing the prevention of the third Beis HaMikdash. And if we tap into v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, we get rid of the sinas chinam, we'll be able to see the geula shlema b'mehira b'yameinu. We'll say just the kapitel tehillah for Klal Yisrael in general, not just Eretz Yisrael, but Klal Yisrael in general, and then we'll open up to any questions. As usual, we say kapitel kuf lamed. Shir malais mima makim karasicha adonai adonai shema b'koili tiena aznecha kashuv v'es lekol tachanunai im avonos tishmar ya adonai mi amoid ki im chasdicha leman divarei ki v'isi adonai kif so nafshi v'lidvarei achalti nafshi la'adonai mishamim la'beker shomim la'beker yachal Yisrael al adonai ki im adonai yachesed v'harbei moifedus v'hu yiftas Yisrael mikol avonesav achinu kol beis Yisrael Hanasunim batzara v'ashev yahim bein bayam uvein bayabasha hamakim yidrachim aleim v'yatzia mitzara l'ervacha ma'afela le'oira u'mishiba legula hashta b'agala b'zman kariv v'neimar amen. Thank you all for joining. I see there's a comment over there, but there's not a question. So until next time, may you have an amazing, successful week, and may we all be able to tap into and fulfill the commandments of v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha.